Hi, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Public Affairs, coming to you from Marion, Ohio. We're grateful that you've joined in here. Today on this episode of Public Affairs, we're talking with the Mayor of Marion, Mr. Scott Schertzer. Mayor Schertzer, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. So when you and I talk about various and sundry things here monthly, this gives the viewer the opportunity to know things about city government and city events and current events and issues otherwise they might not have an opportunity to learn about. So thank you for spending the time coming by and helping us be refreshed on what's going on.
Well, I certainly appreciate coming on and talking about the issues that are taking place in our community, and we have a list of things to talk about today.
Yeah, so it's spring, and
are you sure about that?
Well, that's what the calendar says, but I know I had to defrost the windshield this morning because there was ice on it, and but anyhow, so the weatherman says that the warming trend is about to begin. So that means that people are going to be out and doing all sorts of things, and spring cleanup would suggest gathering a lot of trash up and throwing it away. So how about the community cleanup in Marion?
Sure. You know, this is the time of the year that we start to think about the community cleanup that we do. I think we may go right from winter to summer, though, which isn't all that bad, but it'd be nice to have a little spring in there before summer hits here. So we're going to do the community cleanup on Saturday, May the 5th, and that is going to be from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Now, in this cleanup, you are going to have to prove that you are a customer of the Marion City Sanitation Department. You can bring your driver's license and show. You can bring your bill that we give to you monthly to prove that you are a customer of the Marion City Utility Department. And you're going to have to personally load up and take the items out to the transfer station behind the Marion County Jail. Now, the address of the transfer station is 1564 Victory Road. So when we come by and collect your trash on a weekly basis, our trash trucks go out to the Victory Road transfer station, and that's where we dump your trash. And then it's ultimately hauled off to a nearby landfill that it's not in Marion County anymore. But so this is where we're going to do the cleanup. You'll have to take those items from your garage, your shed, your yard, your basement, and take them up to the transfer station yourself. And if you are a city resident and you can prove that, you will not have to pay the price to dump at the city transfer or the county transfer station, because it is a county-run transfer station up there. A lot of people don't understand that the city of Marion does not run nor operate the transfer station. Some of the things that you cannot take to the transfer station on cleanup day is yard waste, and we'll cover yard waste in just a moment. You also cannot take large appliances like refrigerators and stoves and washers and dryers, and we do not accept any tires, batteries, old paint, or anything like that. I believe they're organizing a day to do those types of toxic materials at a later date, and we'll talk about that. And do not bring up your regular garbage also, or any hazardous materials will not be accepted. So what are we talking about? We're talking about some construction debris that you've had stacked up in the back of the garage, and if you want to just make extra room, you can get rid of it. We're talking about small pieces of furniture that have been stacked up in the basement that nobody uses or wants anymore. We're talking about lawn furniture and things of that nature. So that gives you an idea of what this cleanup day is all about. It doesn't have to be all inside material. It could be outside material as well. And you take that up to the transfer station between 8 a.m. and 12 noon on Saturday, May the 5th, up on Victory Road. Prove that you are a city resident, and you can dump it up there at no cost to you.
Some of your trash you can't get rid of weekly, you can get rid of there.
This would be a good opportunity for you to get rid of some of those items that we might not be able to pick up during your regular trash pickup day because we have to get through those routes quickly and efficiently. But so, yes.
Yeah. So you touched on something. Let's delve further into this, the subject of yard waste.
Yeah, excuse me. Yard waste is a program that we talked about last month, and we announced when we were going to start the yard waste collection program. We started this week. As you may know, we always pick up your yard waste the day after that we pick up your regular trash. And again, we have to hold true this year to 3 bags of yard waste, preferably in a biodegradable brown, what we call big paper bag, or 3 bundles of sticks. What we do not pick up, it could be a special pickup which you'll be charged extra, is if you intend to do your own landscaping. You can't take those old shrubs and throw them down there and say, that's yard waste, pick it up for me. I'll agree with you, it is yard waste, but that's not what the yard waste collection program is designed to do. So you can arrange a special pickup for things of that nature. Now, on the other hand, when we have a storm come through town and large limbs fall, if you happen to have that in your backyard or front yard, we will assist in that cleanup at no additional charge to you. But yard waste collection is limited, and again, that's to make sure that we can get through our routes on a daily basis so we can continue the yard waste collection program. Also, if you have more yard waste than what we'll collect on a weekly basis, you yourself can take it out to Barks Road. Park Enterprises out there will accept all the yard waste. And again, if you're a city resident, it will not be any additional charge to you to take that out there. A lot of folks really like the curbside yard waste collection. We just need to make sure that we follow the rules with that yard waste program.
You can imagine that the schedule you have X number of trucks, you have X number of hours to do this. If you filled up the trucks at various sundry places, then it would take multiple days, and it would really, really upset the schedule. So there's reasons for that minimal amount of pickup.
Well, that's exactly right. And because it is such a popular and valuable program, we want to make sure that we can provide the service to our residents. And again, I've tried to determine how long the yard waste program has been in effect. It's literally been decades. I can't find anybody that can tell me that it started in 1965 or 1975. So it's been around for a while, and we want to continue to keep the program around. And
not all cities provide that.
There are actually very few cities that provide the kind of yard waste collection that we do here in Marion.
Yes, very good. So we touched on something else here, which has to do with municipal employment. So are there any job opportunities for in the city government?
Well,
I should say municipally.
Sure. Well, let's just briefly touch on both, because I think that there are lots of help wanted signs out there all across the city. We talk about this every month that I'm on, but we're going to focus more and primarily on the job opportunities within the city government. Right now, we're taking applications for firefighters, and you have to come to the table with a certain skill and a certain certifications. They often refer to it as your fire card or your EMS qualified or paramedic qualified. Those are some of the qualifications that we're looking for. Of course, you need a valid driver's license and the traditional typical things that you would need to apply for a government job.
And certain physical skills.
Absolutely. There is a physical agility test that you will have to take to make it to the next round. So it's not just as simple as filling out an application, I've got a fire card, I'm going to get interviewed and get a job. You have to meet the physical qualifications involved as well. The best thing to do if you're interested in being a firefighter and you have some of those skills that I just spoke of is to go to the 3rd floor of City Hall. The HR department, Amy O'Connor, our HR clerk, will assist you. You can also go online and look at our website. We do what we call a national testing. We used to have all the interested parties come to City Hall. We administered a written examination at City Hall. We have gone to a national testing where we don't have to do that anymore. And it's given us a broader look at some of the qualified individuals out there to be firefighters. We extended the time for applications for firefighters because we had so many people that came to the agility test that they all couldn't take the agility test on that particular day.
Wow.
So we extended the time period to take these applications, but that time period will close, so I would encourage you to get that in as soon as possible. Yeah. We're also looking for a bus washer to work for the transit department. Oftentimes the bus washer and the kind of the minor maintenance person, we're not talking about tearing down an engine or anything, but just cleaning up the buses and checking the lights and things of that nature. We're looking for a person to do that, and that position oftentimes leads to yet another job, because you can become a full-time bus driver, you can bid on jobs in the sanitation department, you can bid on jobs in the street department. So this is almost an entry-level position as a bus washer. And again, you can fill out those applications and take them to City Hall or online at the same location on the 3rd floor. We're looking for part-time seasonal help in the parks department. We always bring on a couple individuals that help out in the parks as the grass finally starts to green up, and we're going to start mowing and picking up trash in the parks here very soon. We need assistance as seasonal part-time park employees. And as always, we're looking and still taking applications for aquatic park employees. You often need a lifeguard license to do that if you want to be a lifeguard. But not everybody that works at the aquatic center is a lifeguard. We have a lot of other support staff, the front gate, the concession, and other positions. And again, you can bring your applications to the 3rd floor of City Hall. A lot of these employees are high school students and college students. It's a great summertime job for you. If you remember, we follow the Marion City School schedule as far as when the aquatic center is open. And that is also dependent upon the weather, of course. Right now, we're scheduled to be open Memorial Day weekend, weather permitting. So we need all our lifeguards in place, because they're going to get in there a few days before and start stocking the shelves with food and start getting the pool prepared and getting everything ready for that Memorial Day weekend. But right now, things are shaping up at the Marion Aquatic Center. We just need to fill these positions with, again, primarily high school and college-age students.
Very good. Very good. Some time ago, we talked about the new terminal at the Marion Airport, and you said that was under discussion, etc. Can you give us an update on the Marion Airport Terminal?
Yeah, of course. You know, the Marion Terminal, I think, was originally built in 1953. I may be off a year or two on that, but it is time for us to get a new terminal. The Federal Aviation Administration, which is a federal agency, has recognized that we need a terminal replacement project. We've been working with them for a number of years now, and we're closer now than we've ever been before. In fact, just this week, yesterday, in fact, the architect completed its final design, and so we're going to submit that to the FAA. The local or regional FAA office is in Detroit, Michigan, so that will be sent up to them for their review, and they will let us know exactly what the local cost will be and our share of the construction of this particular terminal. There are a lot of activities taking place at the Marion Municipal Airport. We've talked about them before. In fact, the Marion Chamber of Commerce is having their business after hours tomorrow. So that'll be exciting. I'll be out there for that. But the terminal project is closer than ever before. It's still moving forward, and we hope to keep that project moving as quickly as we can.
Very good. So funding for this, how does that funding work?
Well, and that's a great question, because I get asked that question a lot. You know, if the city needs a new this or a new that or a hire here or a hire there, where does that money come from? The nice thing is, once the FAA approves the design of the terminal, they'll tell us exactly what our share of the cost is going to be. So we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million terminal. Sounds like a lot of money. I get it. But the FAA, we're hoping, will pay anywhere between 60 to 62% of that $1 million.
But they also probably require a certain amount of a certain type of terminal, which kind of impacts the cost.
That's exactly right. We have to follow some of the specifications of the FAA. There's certain things that we need in the airport, certain things that we have to have in the airport to qualify for our share of the FAA money. So right now, we're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of about $380,000 being the local cost of $1 million terminal project.
And so I'm assuming then the money that pays for that is probably allocated, can only be spent on that, correct?
Yeah, again, that is also correct, and folks don't understand where does your $383,000 come from, or your 38%, which is what that would be.
Right.
What we have at the Marion Municipal Airport is a line item in the budget called the Airport Improvement Fund, and by city code, the money that goes into that fund can only be spent to make improvements at the Marion Municipal Airport.
Yes.
So we have been banking that money in that fund in anticipation of this day that we will have our share of money in that fund to pay for our share or our percentage of the new terminal construction project.
That's actually kind of inspiring because in whatever, encouraging whatever, because someone, and I'm assuming you and others, have been forward thinking enough to know that sooner or later we're going to have to do this and put money back to like pay ahead for this, and that's good news. So when do you expect to hear from them?
Well, that's the $1 million question.
I forgot. That's federal government. Forgot.
Yeah, so not to disparage the federal government at all, but we are in the process of submitting our architectural design and our plans. We hope it's 4 weeks, but it could be 4 months.
Yeah. And folks, I hope you also appreciate that I was not disparaging the federal government either. I'm just saying it is customary that when you're involved with government of any kind, there's a lot of people, a lot of committees, a lot of votes, a lot of allocation. I mean, a whole lot of stuff goes into this, and it takes a while for all that stuff to get, all that information to get put together so that they can give you an answer.
You know, there's a lot of T's to be crossed and a lot of I's to be dotted. So it's going to take as long as it takes. But again, we've been preparing for this for quite some time.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of folks ask me, well, where does the money come from that goes into the Airport Improvement Fund? They understand it can only be spent at the airport.
Yeah.
Well, the bulk of that money comes from the sale of land at the Marion Industrial Park at the airport.
That's an incredible piece of information.
Yes. So it is not general fund dollars that we've been siphoning off and from other departments. When we sell to a company at the Marion Industrial Airport, Air Park, we take that money and it goes right into that particular fund that can only be used for our terminal matching dollars.
Right. So, okay, so in the subject of construction of things, then we have Route 309 going northeast out of Marion, and there's a whole lot of ground. I understand that it's not a City of Marion enterprise of any kind or construction project, but do you have any information about that overpass that's, by the way, going to be built now, for sure, on 309 over the tracks there going into the intermodal? Do you have updated information on that?
Well, even though that this project is not in the city limits, we clearly recognize as a city how it will benefit us when it comes to commerce and employees from the east side of the county that come into the city or come through the city to work. And we understand the importance when it comes to economic development and the impact that it's going to have at the Marion Intermodal, which is growing every year. So this overpass should be going to sale, and when we say going to sale, it's an ODOT will sell the project, and basically that means they'll select a contractor that will be doing it literally any time now.
Okay.
So we'll see a lot more work being done throughout the summer and throughout the fall, and I think it's slated to be completed sometime in the fall of 2019.
Oh.
And the city does help finance a fraction of the cost of this Marion Municipal Air or overpass that we're talking about. And I do mean a fraction. And it's not money that directly comes out of our city budget that helps fund it. What we've done is we've said we get a certain dollar amount from the Ohio Department of Transportation, and we get a certain dollar amount from OPWC, which is Ohio Public Works, and we have said we can take that money and use it at the overpass.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left here. These sewer projects that have been going on in the area.
Right, so we're going to wrap up the George Street sewer project and the Hain Avenue sewer project. The asphalt plants are going to be opening up next week, so you're going to see a lot of concrete work done on those projects. They're putting in the road base right now. And we think within the next 4 to 6 weeks, those two projects left over from last year will be completed. And then after July the 1st, we're going to start on this year's projects. And that's going to be Sharpless Court, which is a small sewer project. And then we're going to stay in the same neighborhood of George Street. We're going to move one street to the north to Farming. Okay. And so those projects will get started after July the 1st. All this, as you well know, is weather permitting.
Yes.
Don't have any control over Mother Nature. But those are 2 and 4 big sewer projects that are being done in a 2-year period.
Significant infrastructure enhancement of Marion.
You know, we do it every year. We often don't recognize that we do this much infrastructure improvement, but we do it every single year to improve our sewer systems.
So we need more police cruisers. A lot of people think so. And we have some old ones, and I'm imagining the maintenance cost of those old ones is probably getting to the point of being prohibitive. What's being thought of or planned for about replacement of the aging cruisers?
Well, this subject came up on the floor of City Council committees last night, and the Chief of Police and the Safety Director and the City Auditor and myself have been exploring possibilities of replacing some of our fleet in the Marion City Police Department. We have at least 5 police cruisers that have over 150,000 miles on them. Wow. Now, I know somebody at home is sitting there right now and saying, I've got 150,000 miles on my car, and I'm not going out to get a new car.
These are harder miles.
These are much harder miles. Thank you very much for pointing that out. And so we looked at the maintenance costs for those 5 cruisers, and that maintenance cost just to keep them on the road is approaching $50,000 a year. So it doesn't make much sense to continue to put that kind of maintenance cost into a car that it's at the end of its life.
Yes.
So we explored the possibility of an outright purchase of new cruisers, and then we moved towards a leasing option, and then a leasing purchase option. So we're exploring all 3 options, and it looks like we're moving towards either a lease or a lease purchase, and not using the tax dollar more efficiently and getting new fleet in place for our police department.
I like the way that you put that, using tax dollars more efficiently. My hat's off to our local government and you, and I know there's a lot of other people involved here about using tax dollars wisely. When we hear that you're doing these things because you're wanting to do that, now, so that doesn't necessarily mean we buy more cruisers than we have. It's just replacing the aged one? Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly right. What we would do is we would take those first 5, the highest mileage 5, the highest cost in maintenance, we would remove them from our fleet. And ultimately they'll be sold at the city auction that we do usually every year. And so we have 5 new cars. The cost to maintain them is almost non-existent other than maintenance at that point. Yeah. And also recognize that this leasing and lease purchase program is dramatically different than if you and I were to go out and get a lease, or the viewing public would get a lease. Yes. So there are programs out there that are specific to governments like the City of Marion. In fact, through this exploration, we found that most federal law enforcement agencies, DEA, FBI, ATF, they lease their entire fleets out. So this is not new. There's a program in place, and we'll take our findings to City Council here in a few weeks and lay it all out for council, and along with council and the administration, we'll make the best decision on whether to buy, lease, or lease purchase.
So obviously, if you bought them, then you got to put out, you got to put the money out all at once, and that, which means you got to borrow. And I'm assuming, and then of course there's obviously interest on that and so forth. So if I understand, then what you're implying here is that there's financial incentives that we may find out about to go one way as opposed to another.
Well, that's what we're exploring right now. If we did an outright purchase, let's just say for round numbers, each car costs $50,000. That's $250,000 to buy them right now.
Right.
We don't have $250,000 in our capital budget for the city,
right,
or in the police department budget.
Right.
But if we leased or lease purchased, we have $50,000 a year to pay for the lease or the lease purchase option.
Right. In 5 years, you paid.
In 5 years,
you paid for that, but you spread it out over 5 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So these are things that, you know, the taxpayer likes to know something about, and I appreciate the fact that you devote time to get into the weeds, as we say. It's just more details, and some of us like to know the details. Circling back to more efficient use of the tax dollar. I mean, we as taxpayers like to hear that people are being that they're using the tax dollars efficiently. So we have probably a minute. Is there anything that you have talked about, either relative to the Marion Terminal Airport, the sewer projects, or anything that you'd like to elaborate on in the time we have left?
Well, as always, we covered a lot of wide-ranging of topics today, and oftentimes when I'm talking and we're talking about projects or purchase programs, it's about your tax dollars. And there are different pots of money that we use and can use for different programs and projects, and that's my responsibility as well as City Council's responsibility to make sure that we are taking the money and using it as best as we can, and we're not bringing money
Yes.
from one fund that we can't use in another project or program. So it's the same thing with the sewer projects. I can't use the money that we're using to do these sewer projects to buy police cruisers or pay the cost of our share of the airport terminal. So like anything, we have to make sure our ducks in a row and things are lined up.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing right now.
Yes.
I would invite everybody to come to a City Council meeting. We meet on the second and fourth Monday at 7:30 p.m. on the second floor of City Hall. And then we have committees the first Monday and the third Tuesday of every month. And that usually starts about 6:30 p.m. And that's also on the second floor of City Hall.
Well, as you said, we have a wide-ranging discussion here. We usually have that, but for some reason or other, we're always able to get that wound up in time, and today is no different. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you again for the time that you've come and spent with us to help us delve into some of these things, and thank you folks for coming with us here in this discussion and sharing in it and devoting your time. And we have provided this program to you so that you may be more informed than you were before. We thank you so much for spending time with us. I am your host. My name is John Peterson. Thank you.
Just an amazing program.
Surrounded by your glory.
gonna just praise him right now.
I'm not going back.
Because of Christ, I am somebody.
Look at God work. Look at God work.
I'm gonna get up and rise above it.
I'll see you dressed in white.
What I will do, Lord, I'll hold on to you.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-730-16.